Hello friends, welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator in this beautiful morning at Paderborn Airport in Germany. Today's subject is using the G1000NXI for VOR to VOR radio navigation. We will be not using GPS waypoints, we will be just sticking to old school VOR navigation, and I will try to explain the basics and what I do personally to fly from VOR to VOR to reach my destination airport. For this demonstration, we will be departing from Paderborn and our destination will be Hanover in Germany. It's a short flight. We have 2 VOR stations and we will discuss how am I planning my VOR to VOR flights. You can also use the simulator's world map menu to plan your VOR to VOR flights, but I am using Little Nav Map. To me it works a little bit better than the world map menu, and I have full control and it gives me some crucial information about my navigation that I really need to successfully complete my flight. Before we start, if you are enjoying the content and if you stumbled upon this video, consider subscribing. It helps the channel a lot and it keeps me going and fuels me for more videos to come. And don't forget to turn off the notifications and hit that bell to get notified for the future episodes. So let's switch gears. I'm not gonna even jump into the cabin. I'm gonna share what am I doing to plan a VOR to VOR flight using Little Nav Map. So let's just switch screens to Little Nav Map, and that yellow aircraft is ours at Paderborn right there, and I will exactly explain what I do. First thing we need to do is obviously enter our departure, which is going to be Echo Delta Lima Papa. Right clicking will give you a lot of options. We will just use the one that says set as flight plan departure. After selecting, it's carried over here to this side, to the left side of the screen. You can also set your cruising altitude. 5,000 feet is more than enough for this short flight, so that's what I plugged in there. It usually comes default at 10,000, I believe, so keep that in mind. Otherwise a Little Nav Map will not give you a top of climb and top of descent calculation if your cruising altitude is not set properly or correctly. Second thing is to enter our destination, which is going to be Echo Delta Delta Victor. That is Hanover Airport. Right click and then set as flight plan destination. So right now, as you see on the screen, we have our flight plan departure and destination, but we want to track VOR stations to get there. First thing we are going to do, and the easiest way, is you can go to flight plan menu here and go to calculate flight plan, or you can alternatively click Alt Shift Control and that will pop a window. In this little window you will see a couple options. You'll see calculate from departure to destination, that needs to be selected. We will skip the airways, this is selected by default, and go all the way down and select radio nav aids, and we will uncheck use NDB. You can leave it checked and it will also include the NDB stations, but that's not the topic for this tutorial, so just leave it unchecked and hit calculate. This will then calculate a flight plan for you. You can close the window now because we don't need it anymore, and as you see it's added a VOR station, just a single one. It is not perfect, you need to tweak it a little bit, and this is what we are going to do. Okay, so as you see we will be departing Paderborn from runway 24 is my selection. Even it says runway 6 here, I want to depart towards southwest and turn around and follow these Uniform Zulu 606 airway. I believe this is a Juliet airway. We can double check. Yes, it is. And I want to take this towards Warburg VOR station. So to add Warburg to our flight plan, we will right click and then add to flight plan VOR DME Warburg. When we do that, it will automatically change our flight plan and give us a direct route to Warburg that's parallel to Uniform Zulu 606. It's a short distance, and usually around the airport you are vectored by the ATC, therefore it is okay. From Warburg, I want to track another airway. I don't want to go directly to that VOR station. You can, technically, it's perfectly fine, but I want to track this VOR station over here, which is Nienburg, November India Echo. So right click, add to flight plan, VOR Nienburg. Okay, and as you see now, it's a little bit messed up. To move this up and down, you click Control and up arrow. That will take it, and we want to put this after Warburg. Okay, and now if we check again, the flight plan is now updated and it's following this airway to Nienburg VOR station. We don't want to go all the way there. We can and turn around and try to land in one of these runways. So this VOR station becomes obsolete for our flight plan. We will remove it by right clicking and selecting delete selected legs or procedure, or you can simply highlight and hit the delete key on your keyboard. It will remove that VOR station. So this is what we are left with, and this is the exact flight plan in my original G1000 video that I recorded almost a year ago. We will track this and we will look for the Hanover ILS, and when we reach around here we will activate the approach mode, which will then start the approach into Hanover, or activating the approach mode will switch to the ILS frequency, and that will be our next navigation source to find Hanover Airport and land. So we have the flight plan, but we need to write down some data or keep this window open, because we need two things that's very important for VOR to VOR navigation, and a third thing as a more situational awareness. That two important things are: one, the frequency of the VOR station, 113.7 for Warburg, and you can also find it here when you double click, 113.7, and then Nienburg 116.50. Okay, and then the other piece of information we will need is our heading, or in other words our course, to successfully track VOR station following this line, and that can be found here in little nav map. It says 107 degrees, so that's our course. All this will make more sense here in a little bit when we get into the aircraft. It keeps zooming out automatically. And the third one that is good to have is the distance to that station, because that gives us more situational awareness when we should expect to fly over that VOR and start tracking the next one. Okay, so these are the basics. Let's jump into the simulator again, and let's enter all this information we just discussed into G1000NXI. Let's jump into the cockpit and let's turn on the avionics or batteries, and I'm gonna start the engines so that we don't drain and run out of battery. So mixture and RPM goes to full. We will open the throttle half an inch turn the auxiliary fuel pump for boost fuel, turn it back off, and then we will just set the parking brake, go magnetos to both, and then start, which will then start the aircraft. We'll turn on the alternators so that the alternators start generating power for the aircraft, and we'll turn on the avionics master. And one thing I forget is the beacon light, because we have engine running right now. Alright, so let's get down to business, shall we? So for the G1000, first thing we need to do is tune Warburg VOR to our nav radio. To do that, inner dial will advance the decimal whole numbers 117, and then the outer one will tune the or change the decimal numbers, which is 117.30, if I remember correctly. Okay. Also, we can go to PFD options and hit DME, and we need to click this to activate that frequency. Oh, that didn't turn out the right frequency. Let me double check. I might have entered the wrong one. Warburg is 113.7. That's why. Let's fix that. 113.7. Tune that, and we should see 19.5 miles exactly stated in Little Nav map. It says 19.6. That's quite close, and that is our DME information. We can put the bearing here as well, and that will give us the same information, which then we don't need the DME if you don't care about it. I will keep this here, and we will keep the bearing 2 for the Nav 2 radio. For Nav 2, that is going to be our second VOR station, which will be the active frequency. So that is Nienberg, and the frequency is 116.5. So let's tune that. Press the knob to switch to Nav 2, 116, and then 0.5. We will make that active. Okay, and then we will tune the same Warburg VOR station as a backup. If just in case our Nav 1 goes bad, we will have that frequency ready for us to switch and start tracking if anything goes wrong. Back to Nav 1, and this will be the opposite, so this is going to be 116.5 at our standby. By making this active, as you see, Nienberg is displayed here, and Nav 2 will display the bearing information, or we can just we can just keep it here to see where that station is as we start picking the signal. Okay, the green means that's the active frequency right now. If I switch, it will make the Nienberg active, and we will start to see the information when we start to receive the signal. The last thing we need to do is to set the course for Warburg, which was 107 degrees. The course knob is here. The outer one adjusts the course, inner one adjusts the barometric pressure, which you see here. So the course for Warburg was 107. We will turn this around to 107, and now this arrow is pointing exactly what we need to follow to reach Warburg on that set course. That will perfectly follow that line that you see in our flight plan. Speaking of which, we can also enter it here so that we don't have to switch screens to see where we are at. This is just to demonstrate. I don't usually use this. It is to me a little bit cheating, because you are using a flight plan to see your position, where we are trying to do conventional radio navigation. But just to show you guys, and for the sake of the video, I will just do this quickly. Okay, let's go click the knob to bring the cursor, select that, and then we will just enter Echo Delta Lima Papa. That's our departure. Runway is going to be 24. We will select that and enter to accept. Go down to destination, select that, and Echo Delta Delta Victor, enter. And runway for that airport, Hanover, we will be better off with 09 left. So let's select that one. You can also do 09 right, but I will select 09 left and enter that information. So that's our departure and destination. For the en route, we will first enter Warburg, W or Whiskey Romeo Bravo, enter that, and then second one is going to be Nienburg, which is November India Echo. Okay, so those are two stations, and now we should be able to see our destination on our ND or MFD in this case. Because this is showing track up and this course is closed, it's giving 109, ours is 107, but this is for situational awareness, just to demonstrate to you guys, okay? I'm not gonna look into this screen that much. Alright, everything is set now. We need to set the barometric pressure. I just simply hit the B key and cheated a little bit for the sake of the video. So the rest for us is to taxi to the runway, take off, and then I will explain the rest later. But we are taking off towards, in this case, towards southeast. This is not the correct orientation. We can change it to north up if we want to, and then that will give us what we are looking for. It should be under map settings here, I believe. Enter that. Yep, it is set as track up, so if we do north up, that will align with the little nav map. Now we can get out of this menu, and now we exactly look at what we were looking in the little nav map screen. Okay, so we will depart, turn around in a traffic pattern, left turn, and then intercept this course and track it towards Warburg. Okay, and for successful tracking, our CDI needs to be at VOR 1. If it's not green but magenta, that means you are tracking your GPS flight plan that's entered here. We don't want to do that, so we will just do this. Okay, alright, I will taxi to the runway and bring you guys back when we are ready to take off. See you in a little bit. Welcome back, friends. We are at the runway. Let's jump into the cockpit and do a final check. Flaps are set for takeoff, mixture is full rich, and RPM is full forward. Strobe is turned on, landing lights are on, taxi lights are still on, and we'll turn on the pitot heat and prop de-ice for now, and we are ready to do our takeoff run. Okay, and after takeoff, what we will do is we will turn around 180 degrees and start tracking this course, and when this needle is pointing towards Warburg, like in the same angle towards north, in this case northeast a little bit maybe, that's when we will start turning to our course of 107. Okay, I will explain that when we are up in the air. So let's do our takeoff roll. Brakes are off, give her some power, keep the nose on the ground by forward pressure on the stick, full power, and off we go. Airspeed is live. Let's maintain the center line. We rotate to 73 knots, which we just reached, so lift her off the ground. Nice and easy. Alright, positive rate. Gear is now coming up, and we will pull the flaps up and follow the runway heading for a little bit. until we have enough distance, and I'm trying to trim the aircraft, which is always hard in Microsoft Flight Simulator. We can turn the flight director on if we have to, just for the sake of the climb. That's the Paderborn ILS signal, I believe, but I think we traveled enough distance to make that left turn, so we will turn left slowly and we will keep climbing at this pace, and we will keep going for a little bit like this. So we are turning around now. We can turn a little bit sharper, I believe. Let's take a look. There is the airport at the back, and we are just making that turn. We will see the runway on our left when we make the turn, and that will tell us that we need to follow that heading until this needle is pointing towards northeast. That's a little bit sharper. Let's sharpen the turn a little bit. There we go. This is better, and we need to keep climbing at the same time. And I will worry about the mixture and RPM here in a little bit. So that is, I think, the runway as you see over there. So that tells me that we are pretty much back to the initial plan, and we are following as planned. And as you see, that needle is pointing towards Warburg VOR station, and it will keep moving as we get closer to our flight plan path, which you see over here. Let's synchronize our heading for now, and let's follow this. At this point you can turn the AP on, which I don't want to, and I want to show you guys how it's done. But we can just do this. We can turn the flight level change, set the speed to I don't know, set the speed to 140, right, and then turn the AP so that we can get back to 5000. So as you see, that needle keeps moving a little bit, and we just tracked towards left a little bit, so I'm just gonna correct ourselves back to the heading that we need to be flying parallel to the runway in opposite direction. Now we are reaching 5000, and that needle is now pointing, as you see, southeast. So right now we can engage nav, and the aircraft should start turning and following this course to get us to Warburg. Couple things I need to explain. This middle line, if it's on your right side, that means the flight plan path is towards your right and you are off track. If it's on your left side, that means the flight plan is on your left side and you are off track to the left, and you need to correct until this needle is perfectly solid one piece arrow pointing towards that VOR station. So that's how you know that you are on track. And as you see, the autopilot will now correct itself, and that needle will stay perfectly in the middle. That is the course deviation indicator that is showing how much you are deviating from your original course. And as you see, now we are tracking 104 because the aircraft is correcting for the wind automatically, and we are following that course that we set. As you see here, that was 109. It's 2 degrees to our left, and that's why we are not perfectly aligned with that, but per the VOR needle we are on that perfectly. So let's come down here and adjust our RPM to 2400, and let's lean the engine because we are burning way too much fuel than we should be burning. I'm just watching this fuel flow and bringing it down to somewhere around 10, 11. That looks fine to me. That will fix our speed, and we need to keep an eye on the tank and change this to right tank when left tank drains to avoid fuel imbalance. As you see, we can already do that, because down below here for this aircraft, Beechcraft Bonanza G36, you have to manually control the fuel flow from each tank. So let's switch to right tank to balance the weight. Oops, that's not that one. Okay, that is now correct. Now it is using from the left tank. Let's change the altitude to our cruising altitude of 5000 and use flight level change to get up to that altitude. We only need to climb 500 feet, so 135 will do. And as you see, we are tracking that station. I will switch away from this screen. Okay. And I will keep it like this. It is still going to show the flight plan, but I just want you guys to see what we are doing. That's why it's there. Normally I don't use it. When we pass over Warburg, you will see this needle moving quite a bit, and it will turn backwards or go blind for a second. That means we are right overhead of that VOR station, then which tells us that we need to switch frequencies again to the next one and start tracking. And for that, let me just bring up the Nav Graph window to show you what that means. So we are traveling towards Warburg, as you see, perfectly aligned with our flight plan path. Sometimes little nav map is 1-2 degrees off, so you can align it. You don't have to if you are very worried about that. When we reach Warburg, we will start tracking course of 6 degrees for 68 miles towards Hanover. And if we don't receive the signal from our next station, which we don't see yet, I believe it's not showing. Yep, I don't see it here. So if we are not picking up the signal, that means we will then backtrack Warburg on that course, and that will take us towards that VOR station on this course, away from Warburg station VOR, until we start to receive the signal from Nymburk. Okay, so that is the plan. If you are far away, sometimes you don't receive the signal and you have to backtrack this VOR station to get there. Let's switch back to the simulator and let's see what is going to happen when we reach Warburg VOR station. Let's monitor the CDI needle closely, and you will see that is going to start moving when we reach Warburg, and we are seeing it over here. And the distance, as you see, is 1.9 miles, so you don't even need this flight plan. You can track the distance. I am 1.8 miles. At 1 miles, I will set the course to 6 degrees, and that will make the aircraft start turning, because you will see this needle starting to move slowly, and then it will increase the speed and go backwards. Okay. The other information is, let's see here. I'm trying to see where it's displayed. The CDI should show you whether you are flying towards that station or away from that station. But as you see, it's now back drifting and it's gonna turn backwards, so that means we can start changing the course to 6 degrees so that we will turn and track that course towards Nymburk. Okay. Let's move back on here. There we go. Now we are turning and we should be on track towards Nürnberg here in a little bit. Now the flight plan course is towards our left. We need to center the aircraft, and with the NXI sometimes it doesn't do it automatically if you drift away from your flight plan path quite significantly. To do that, we can switch to the heading mode. Synchronize the heading first, obviously, that's something I forgot, and we need to track towards left to intercept our flight plan course. Okay, we will see this here in a little bit. So we are 2.6 miles away from Warburg. Let's see if we can receive the signal from the other one. We are not receiving it yet, so but we should shortly. Alright, speed looks good. We are now turning towards our flight plan path, and you will see that needle moving as we get close to the flight plan path and ready to intercept it. This needle will start coming towards middle. We can turn a little bit more to speed it up a little bit. And when the needle starts moving, that means we are almost there and aligning with the flight plan path. It will take a little bit before you see it moving, but as you see, it started to move. And we can go back to 6 degrees as it gets closer to the center, slowly. Okay, it is time to go back to 6 degrees, and maybe we can switch back to nav mode, and then the aircraft will align with that flight plan path. Alright, almost there, getting slowly back on track, and you will see that middle centered. I'm trying to see, there must be an arrow. Okay, that arrow, as you see, now it's pointing downwards. It was pointing upwards before, so that means we are traveling away from that VOR station. If you roll the video back, you will see that pointing in front of us before, when we were tracking Warburg from Paderborn airport. Now it's saying we are tracking away from Warburg VOR. So we can switch frequencies to see if we are receiving the signal. To do that, we will switch to the heading mode for us momentarily, switch frequencies and see if we are receiving anything. Looks like we are not receiving the signal yet, so we will switch back and then go back to nav mode. This is how you can see if you are receiving the signal. We are not yet, and we should see something on the nav too if we were receiving the signal. Alright, so we will fly this course until we start receiving the signal from the next VOR station, and then the last thing we will enter will be the ILS frequency for runway 09 left in Hanover. Okay, and that frequency is, let me check that and let you guys know if you want to fly the same route for testing and following along. Okay, ILS localizer 09 left, that is the chart, and frequency is 108.3. So keep that in mind. 108.3 is our localizer frequency or ILS frequency into Hanover, and the altitude to capture the glide slope is 3000 feet. So we need to descend down to 3000 to capture the glide slope, and we will be able to then do an ILS approach into Hanover. Still no signal from Nürnberg, and the VOR signal increases with altitude. So if you climb higher, there is a greater chance that you will pick the signal way before than a lower altitude. So keep that in mind. If we were flying at probably 10,000, we should probably see that signal and receive that signal by now, which we are not at the moment because of the altitude and the distance to that VOR station. However, we are on track, and the autopilot is doing a great job staying on track towards that VOR station and correcting for that 14 knots crosswind coming from our left. That's why we are not flying 006 instead we are flying 000 or 360 to correct for the wind. Because wind is pushing us towards right constantly, and the aircraft is correcting for that. Alright, 13 miles away from Warburg, we have 68 miles distance to Hanover. We can increase the RPM a little bit towards 2450, and maybe the mixture just a little bit. I wish the engine page was working. It is not. This aircraft had an improvement mode where the engine page is oh, okay, it is visible here. That's good. I didn't know that. Maybe they just brought this with the new version of the NXI. I didn't realize there was engine page displayed. So what you are looking here is the cylinder head temperature and EGT, and we will just find the peak and then go one notch below the peak. So that's not the peak. We'll go there, I think 1090, 100. Alright, so that is looking like that's what we are looking for. 2430. Let's check the fuel to make sure we are not creating imbalance. So now left tank is a little bit lower than the right one, so I think we can switch back to the right tank to balance the wings, and we will fly this heading until we start receiving the signal. It is okay to check time to time by switching to heading mode and changing the frequencies, but right now we are not receiving anything. So let's go back, and let's go back to nav, and we should see the bearing information here when we start to see the signal, or receive the signal rather. In the meantime, we can enjoy the scenery, which is beautiful in Europe, especially around Germany. I like that scenery a lot. And we will keep the landing light on, as we are flying at 5000, and that will give us some more visibility. You can turn it off if you like, but look at this. It looks beautiful, isn't it? Very nice. Alright, hopefully we will receive that signal here in a little bit, and I will increase the range here for you guys to see where we are at. We are there, and that's runway 09 left. We don't even need to add a procedure from here. We can perfectly tune the ILS, and the aircraft should take us down when we activate the approach mode of the autopilot here. These are independent. Adding a procedure versus doing it from here, they are independent. If you have the frequency, the aircraft should follow that ILS signal all the way into the runway. Perfectly fine. I'm just waiting for this to receive the signal from next VOR station, which we haven't already so far, to explain what we need to do next, and then I will cut the video and bring us all the way to landing or approach phase and what we need to do there. This is the exact same tutorial we did earlier a year ago with the original G1000. There was no NXI at the time. I think this is a great improvement over the default Garmin G1000 in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Thanks to working title team, they added a lot of functionality, and I appreciate their hard work. This becomes a very nice avionics suite for GA aircraft, and it is fun to fly with, and it functions properly as expected. Still no signal from our next station, but we will be just fine. We will follow this. Oh, there is a little bit strong crosswind and turbulence, looks like. And maybe I should speed up the video and bring you guys back when the signal is showing at the bearing information down below. Let me just speed this part of the video until we start to receive the signal. Alright guys, I just started to see the bearing information for Nürnberg. That means we are receiving the signal. We can perfectly switch frequencies now, and the aircraft shouldn't move quite a bit. It will just correct for the course, but then we should be fine tracking that signal. What we need to do here is now to... What's going on? Oh, it's correcting itself, okay. It's getting back on track because we drifted a little bit, looks like, well, while we were tracking away from Warburg. This is natural with VOR, so don't get nervous or don't be worried about this. It will correct itself and align itself with the course. Next thing is to tune the ILS frequency into Nav 1 for standby, which is 108.3. So let's tune that 108.3, and then we will do the opposite for Nav 2, 108.3. That's decimal 3, that's 108, and we will make that active. And as you see, it started to display ILS. And that's about it. I will keep bearing information here, maybe turn off bearing 1 because we don't need it anymore. We can keep the DME, but Nürnberg is not going to give us that because it's just a VOR station, not a VOR DME, so we will not have distance information. But that is fine. What we are looking for here is to see the needle for ILS appearing on our CDI, and we will then see that we need to turn and start tracking that VOR, not VOR, I'm sorry, start tracking ILS and approach into Hanover. So let me just cut the video here, and I will bring you guys back when we are ready to make the turn, and I will talk about that in a little bit. Welcome back, friends. We will switch to heading mode to check if we are receiving the ILS frequency, and we'll keep Nav 1 here and make the active. We are now receiving the ILS signal, as you see. Okay. We started to pick up the signal from our ILS, and I have to check the final approach course, which is going to be 090. It is already set here because I switched frequencies and received ILS. So what we can do at this point is we can switch frequencies. The aircraft will start turning towards the localizer, and we will set the altitude to 3000, and do a vertical speed descent at 700-800 feet per minute. We need to come back on the throttle to slow us down, and we'll go full mixture, full RPM, and the rest we will control with the throttle to slow us down and get back on course with the localizer. And as soon as we align with the localizer, we will activate the approach mode, and that will start our landing into Hanover. As you see, the aircraft is turning towards the localizer to intercept the signal. Final approach course of 090 is set. If it's not, you can use the course knob to set it. But as soon as it's an Ils frequency, it should automatically set the course. And I started to see the airport there. That should be the runway. And the aircraft will turn around, and as this needle starts to get close to the middle, it will then align itself with the localizer. We are descending down to 3000. Maybe we should speed up that descent a little bit. Alright, we are almost there, and that is, I believe, that is the 09 left, right there. So we can activate the approach mode now. It will arm the glide slope as you see here, and when we capture the glide slope, it should then start our ILS into runway 09 left. Yep, as I suspected, that is our runway. We are at 3000 almost. So everything should look fine now. You should see the aircraft turning left here in a little bit as we line up with the runway. That is the runway right there. You see towards our left wing. Let's see if the aircraft will start turning, or if it's messed up and it's going to turn around the opposite direction. No, it didn't. So it localizer flashed. That means it captured the localizer. So that means we are now in line with the localizer and runway heading. As you see there, that is the runway, and it is trying to turn back on track. It's a little bit jumpy, but we shouldn't have any problems capturing the glide slope if we haven't passed the final approach fix. If we have received the signal a little bit earlier, this should have been a little bit more smoother. This is why it's just turning around and trying to capture. What we can do to help the aircraft is maybe we can switch to heading mode and fly parallel to the runway just a little bit to help the aircraft get back on course, and then we can activate the approach mode again. My initial plan was to make this turn smoothly into the runway, which we just received the signal a little bit late. That might be due to our altitude, a number of other reasons, so be on the look for that, and let me know in the comments how your experience was if you end up flying the same route. Alright, so the speed is good, we'll keep it there, 123, 122. We can slow down to our approach speed when we make the turn. And let's see if we covered enough distance. Looks like we did. So what we can do right now is we can make a right turn to 090, or we can simply go back to nav mode and activate approach again. Nav approach. it's armed, so this is new thing with NXI. As you see, it's armed, but because we drifted quite a bit, it's not going to activate localizer until we get closer. So let's make that right turn, and you will see the localizer arming as we get towards the runway. I will fly probably heading 030 or something close. That will give us a good angle to capture the localizer and turn around into the runway. Keep turning to get back on where the airport was. We will see it out the window here in a little bit when we make the turn. There we go. Don't mind this flight plan path, it's showing that path from this VOR station, so that will probably make you confused. So that is not our course or path that we need to follow, but if we fly like this, then we should be able to get back on localizer. Airport should be on our left, right there. As you see, at the tip of the wing is the runway, and the needle is pointing towards the airport, so we should be able to get back on the localizer, and we can arm the approach one more time. Then we will capture the glide slope as we get there. Alright, so this ended up being a little bit turny, curly end of the flight, but that's due to receiving the signal late, so be on the look for that. And that's why having a VOR DME with distance reading helps a lot to know where you are, how far away you are from your destination. The aircraft should get back on the localizer here in a little bit. It should arm itself, or it should activate itself as we get on track. Let's take a look. That is the airport. We are almost there. We should see the aircraft turning, and we can help the aircraft turn. And as you see now, we captured the localizer. Approach mode is still active. We are turning towards the localizer, and this time it should be okay, and we should capture. And we started to see the signal. There is the runway, and hopefully this time we will capture the glide slope and start descending into the runway. If not, we will do it manually. Now, we went out of nav again. Looks like localizer stopped. Now we are back on localizer, and we should capture the glide slope now. We can cut the throttle a little bit to help the aircraft turn a little bit sharper. And we should see the glide slope. If not, we will start descending by pitching the nose down and trying to help the aircraft. Or we can use the vertical speed mode and start descending at 600 feet per minute. That is a common way of doing it, but in our case We need to set the altitude to 0, vertical speed, and start descending a little bit faster to get back on the glide slope. And in the meantime, we'll cut the throttle, and this should do it. Alright, we are descending a little bit fast, like a nosedive, but it should be fine. We ended up not capturing the glide slope because we are probably beyond that waypoint where we should have captured the glide slope due to us turning around quite a bit. But no problems, we will land. I have no problems doing it manually. Let's descend a little bit faster. And then maybe we can get back on the glide slope and capture it while we are here. I think I'm now going to take control of the aircraft. Lift the nose a little bit, go flaps 1, and trim the nose down. Gear is coming down now, and as you see, we started to read the puppy lights. That is great. We are off track a little bit. We need to get back on track, and we need to lift the nose. Let's go flaps full. Let's add some power, and let's make our correction so that we align with the runway heading of 090. Remember, that was the heading. That's perfect. We are coming in nicely. We have enough power to keep the nose like this until we reach the threshold. That is the runway threshold. We are now gradually going to reduce the power, lift the nose, let the speed bleed. There we go. Easy and slow. There we go. We are on the ground now. And there you have it, guys. We are safely at Hanover. We weren't able to do the full ILS. That's on me because of receiving the frequency late and acting late a little bit. It is also due to trying to start the recording back again and all that. So as I said, let me know how your flight goes if you end up flying the same route. Let's speed up a little bit, retract the flaps, and vacate the runway using this taxiway. This looks like a high-speed exit, which we can perfectly take, and vacate that runway. Landing lights can now come off. Taxi lights will still stay on. Strobe can come off now. And we will find the parking spot and park the aircraft and end the video there. I am seeing some GA aircraft over there. Maybe we'll just go there and park somewhere around the general aviation parking rather than parking next to these airliners. That could be a better way or better spot for parking. Let's make this left turn and get there and find ourselves a parking spot, shall we? Let's add some power to keep going. Yep, that looks like a GA parking area, or if not, a maintenance area for GA aircraft, so I'm okay with that. We will take this next exit to the right from the taxiway and park somewhere over there. Perfect. Alright, just to summarize, for VOR navigation you will need two pieces of information that is crucial: frequency of the station as well as the course to that station, which you can obtain from little nav map or your choice of flight planning software. And the second is the course and frequency. And the third one that's important or nice to have is the distance, so that you are more aware of your situation or your position of the aircraft. Alright, let's just come over here and park next to this aircraft, like so. Not quite what I wanted, so let's keep going and turn a little bit more. Looks like that's parking spot 76 at Hanover. Alright, now taxi light can come off. We'll set the parking brake. Beacon will stay on. We can turn off the nav lights, and then we can now cut the engines, and eventually the beacon can come off, and we'll turn off the magnetos, we'll turn off the battery, and that's it. Okay, thank you very much for staying with me in this tutorial today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, consider giving a like to the video, and if you are not a channel subscriber, as I said at the beginning, consider subscribing. That helps a lot. Thank you guys for watching the video until the end, and I will see you in the next video.